The total amount of money that they held in assets runs up to $740 million.
The world's biggest money laundering operation. How did they get away with it? Imagine the scene. Amid mansions, palm trees, and chirping birds, 400 intelligence officers and police officers surround multiple properties, waiting for a signal. When it's given, they break into villas and mansions in pursuit of the perpetrators of perhaps the largest money laundering operation in history. One suspect jumped out of a window trying to evade arrest. He was later found injured, hiding in a drain. In total, the Singaporean authorities arrested 9 men and 1 woman. All 10 originally hail from China, though they carry passports ranging from Cyprus to Cambodia. The arrests were made in August 2023, but the true extent of the crimes is still coming to light. A total of $2.8 billion in assets have been seized or frozen. That's not how much was laundered, that's just how much authorities got hold of. 8 suspects are still being sought. This story is wild. It's as if Guy Ritchie put a crime twist on crazy rich Asians. In this video, we'll tell you how the drama unfolded and what we know now. It's a tale that takes you through some of Singapore's most exclusive addresses, potentially implicates some global banks, and explores the murky depths of the criminal underworld. Let's get into it, shall we? One of the most shocking aspects of this story is that these alleged criminals have been operating in Singapore and in plain sight for years. Criminality is not typically what comes to mind when one thinks of Singapore. Rather, the country evokes images of immense luxury, efficiency, and innovation. It portrays itself as a cultural melting pot where East meets West. Modern and traditional coexist in harmony. It conveys a sense of peace and stability. Indeed, Singapore is one of the safest places on the planet, ranking second behind Tokyo, according to the most recent index by The Economist. This can at least be partly explained by Singapore's strict laws. It has a zero-tolerance policy towards various forms of wrongdoing, including corruption, abuse and harassment of healthcare workers, drug trafficking, and drug abuse. It also imposes capital punishment. Even low to mid-level drug offenders can face the death penalty in Singapore. Zero tolerance and then some. So now that we know the context, let's dig into the details of the crimes allegedly committed. Official reports state that the 10 individuals arrested were involved in scams and in operating online casinos. Singaporean news sources say that at the heart of the matter is an unnamed illegal online gambling service based in the Philippines and targeting customers in China. For context, gambling is illegal in mainland China. The one exception to this is Macau, known as the Asian Las Vegas, and located around an hour's drive from Hong Kong. The comparison is actually pretty inaccurate. In terms of turnover, Macau is several times bigger than Las Vegas. Anyway, while we couldn't find specific details about the casinos the 10 are alleged to have been involved in, the apparent disappearance of a man called Wang Bingang at the time of their arrest may provide some clues. In 2012, at just 23 years of age, Wang set up the Hong Li International Gambling site from the Philippines and Cambodia, and actively targeted Chinese gamblers. Hong Li, in case you're curious, means great profits in Mandarin. And indeed, great profits is exactly what Hong Li yielded. Within 2 years, the group was churning out millions of dollars. According to one source, in the 6 months before Wang was arrested by China's authorities in February 2015, the illicit proceeds from the site were, and I quote, a whopping 984 million yuan, or $130 million. Now, I should actually say that the actual profits made by Wang in the 2 years were much more modest, equivalent to just under 300,000 US dollars, according to the same source. So, great criminal business, terrible criminal businessman. In any case, though, authorities froze hundreds of accounts and cracked down on the so-called Hong Li Group. The website and countless spin-offs continued to operate. Gambling sites have since proliferated, particularly during periods of COVID-19 lockdowns. The fact that Wang disappeared from his Singaporean home after the police operation in August suggests he's connected to those arrested. On top of that, Wang is from the Chinese region of Fujian. All 10 of the arrested individuals, who are reportedly connected by blood or through marriage, are also from Fujian. Unfortunately for the many law-abiding citizens of Fujian, the southeastern province has become associated with criminality. Fujianese organized criminals, commonly dubbed as Fujian gangs or Fujianese gangs, are notorious for their involvement in violent crimes, bribery, and overseeing illegal drug trade. Criminal gangs with links to Fujian are known to operate everywhere, from Chinatown in New York to Latin America and the Caribbean. If you want to learn more, I'll leave a link to a wonderfully titled academic paper on the topic, Triads, Snakeheads, and the Flying Money, the underworld of Chinese criminal networks in Latin America and the Caribbean. Anyway, back to our story. So what do we know about the 10 individuals who were arrested and their crimes? The 10 suspects have been on law enforcement's radar since at least early 2022, after police were alerted to undisclosed suspicious activities. They launched a massive intelligence probe and soon discovered a multi-billion-dollar money laundering operation spanning multiple countries. In case you're unfamiliar with the term, money laundering got its name from the Italian mafia's use of laundromats in the US to conceal or clean their dirty money. According to unnamed informants quoted by local media, the 10 suspects used a variety of means to launder their scams and ill-gotten online casino proceeds. Since there is a limit to the amount of money an individual can transfer from China to Singapore without arousing suspicion, the suspects set up companies in both jurisdictions. They would send money from China to the supposedly prop up their failing business in Singapore. Some of these businesses were reportedly located in the most expensive shopping centers in the city. According to one informant, some of these businesses were obviously used for money laundering, since the items they purposely sold were few in number and were not nearly valuable enough to cover typical rents in the areas. Another informant claimed that another way criminals laundered money was through casinos. The person is quoted as saying that even the criminals, and I quote, end up losing 200,000 Singaporean dollars, the remaining 800,000 Singaporean dollars would be successfully laundered. And then comes the tried and tested method of real estate investment. According to the same informant who works in real estate in Singapore, there is a legal loophole in the country that's been successfully exploited by criminals. Legally, if a client pays a large sum in cash, the real estate agent is obliged to report this client to the financial authorities. However, according to the informant, there is no definition of what constitutes a large sum. Therefore, some real estate businesses don't report these cash payments in order to secure the large commissions. Where there's a will, there's $1 million of ways. Now let's move on to the suspects. Unfortunately, police records and news reports don't offer much in the way of juicy details about them. They are described as being between 31 and 44 years old, with forged documents and legitimate passports from Cambodia, Cyprus, Turkey, St. Kitts, and Nevis. The charges against them include forgery and/or money laundering and resistance to lawful apprehension. Money laundering carries a maximum of 10 years imprisonment in Singapore, in case you're wondering. The professional titles of some of the suspects are mundane and no doubt deliberately so. One is, and I quote, a director and shareholder of SG Gree, an electrical appliance company that manufactures air conditioners. Another is described as, and I quote, a director of Golden Eagle Family Office, which offers management consultancy services. So you get the picture. However, the press did include a telling nugget about Zhang Rujin, the director of Golden Eagle Family Office. Upon his arrest, Zhang requested to be released on bail. So how did he try and convince authorities that he wouldn't do a runner? Well, he said his lover, Ling Bajoing, who was another of the 10 arrested, could remain on remand instead. And they say romance is dead. Anyway, far more striking than the crimes or the criminals behind them is the police's incredible haul, compromising everything from luxury goods to vaults filled with banknotes. Thankfully, Singaporean authorities took a serious, albeit low-resolution photos, which give you a sense of the scale of this operation. The stacks of cash that you can see in the photos range from 112,000 to 6.4 million Singaporean dollars. In total, authorities seized around 23 million Singaporean dollars, which is around 16.8 million US dollars from the 10 properties. They also seized bank accounts with 110 million Singaporean dollars, which is around 80 million US. That's not all. The haul also included over 250 luxury bags and watches, over 120 electronic devices, including computers and mobile phones, more than 270 pieces of jewelry, including Hermes handbags, Patek Philippe watches, and enough booze to inebriate a small city. Oh, and 2 gold bars. That's right, 2. They're keeping it old school. In addition, one of the suspects, 42-year-old Wang Shuming, is believed to have over $40 million in crypto assets. This came to light after $3.8 million was withdrawn from his account 2 days after his arrest and while he was still in custody. Somebody's been sharing their private keys. Oh, and let's not forget the dozens of Bentleys and Rolls Royces and the opulent properties these suspected crooks lived in and owned. The arrests were made in some of the plushest neighborhoods of the city, including Sentosa Cove, Tang Lin, Orchard Holland, and River Valley. If you're wondering about the scale of the opulence, here is a photo of Sentosa Cove. According to the recent listing, properties in the area range from multiple millions of dollars to tens of millions of dollars. In total, the suspected crooks owned over 100 high-end properties across plush areas of Singapore. So in light of these revelations, authorities have issued orders preventing those properties from being sold or transferred. Taken together, as mentioned previously, $2.8 billion worth of assets have been either seized or frozen by authorities. It truly is a staggering amount. For context, and if this Reader's Digest article can be believed, $2.8 billion could buy you a private island, Buckingham Palace, and the White House, and still leave you with hundreds of millions of dollars to fund an opulent lifestyle.
We interrupt this programme for an emergency crypto weather forecast. Get ready for a whirlwind of savings. We're seeing some high-pressure sign-up bonus systems forming in the northeast, with some exchanges offering up to $40,000. In the south, we'll be seeing some heavy discounts on hardware wallets, so watch out for those if you're going to be out and about. And then in central areas, there's a high chance of trading fee discounts, which should be settling in later on, so be on the lookout for up to 60% off there. Lush! For a more comprehensive forecast, just visit coinbureau.com/deals or use the link down in the description. These deals are red hot, so make sure to take all the necessary precautions. Well, that's all for today's forecast. Now back to the scheduled programme.
Anyway, it's fair to say this story has cast a dark shadow over Singapore's financial sector. The suspects had bank accounts at some major banking institutions, including Standard Chartered, Malaysia's CIMB, Credit Suisse, and Citigroup's local subsidiary. In the months since the police operation, it appears the financial institutions have sharply increased their due diligence. According to the Financial Times, there has been an increase in waiting time to open banking accounts for international clients, notably those from China. Previously, the process took less than a month. Now it can take as long as 4 months. The Singaporean government, meanwhile, is facing a dilemma in dealing with the recent money laundering scandal. The government needs to take some measures to discourage criminals from operating in the country. However, it does not want to implement measures that would discourage legitimate wealth inflows, which totaled $1.5 trillion last year. Singapore is, after all, the world's third largest offshore financial hub, after Switzerland and Hong Kong, where the wealthy park their assets, according to an estimate by Boston Consulting Group. The government's position was perhaps best articulated in a speech by the Second Minister for Home Affairs, Josephine Teo, in early October. After acknowledging the need for greater regulation, Josephine urged lawmakers to, and I quote, "be careful about knee-jerk reactions which may make our business environment unfriendly." But there are some measures other governments could take. Local reports indicate that the government is considering expanding anti-money laundering protocols, including introducing stringent Know Your Customer, or KYC, and anti-money laundering, or AML checks for high-value possessions such as vehicles, luxury handbags, and premium alcohol. Scrutiny has also fallen on so-called family offices. These are entities that manage the wealth of individual families. They enjoy some tax exemptions as they exclusively manage the funds of families they represent. These offices have exploded in number, representing a massive influx of wealth to Singapore, particularly from China, in recent years. According to reports, there were over 1,000 such offices in Singapore in 2022, a threefold increase since 2020. These offices have been in the spotlight after the Minister of State, Alvin Tan, stated that at least one individual implicated in the money laundering case is believed to have taken advantage of the benefits offered by the government's Family Office program. As you remember from earlier, the charming suspect who offered his lover to remain in custody while he sought bail is a director at a family office. But while Singapore certainly doesn't want to be associated with money laundering, the reputational damage associated with the crime is, on balance, not that high. If you don't believe me, let's look at where places money laundering is prevalent. In much of the US, it has been possible to buy luxury homes anonymously, which the US Treasury Department claims has allowed corrupt oligarchs and even terrorists to hide and launder their assets. The Treasury claims that as much as $2.3 billion has been laundered through US real estate between 2015 and 2020, and is seeking to end this anonymity loophole as a result. In Canada, meanwhile, the city of Vancouver has been called, and I quote, a haven for illicit capital flight and money laundering, drawing a host of criminal organizations with links to China, Mexico, and Iran. And then there is London, which has been dubbed Londongrad due to the amount of Russian oligarchs and business magnates that buy up property there. It's an open secret that a significant proportion of this wealth is laundered through the city. An estimated $125 billion is laundered through the UK annually, and you can be sure a big chunk of that is laundered in London. And yet, despite these figures, you would be hard-pressed to find anyone who would object to traveling or doing business in these locations because of their association with money laundering. White-collar, non-violent crimes just don't evoke the same emotions in people as other types of crimes. Before I conclude, I should add a note on crypto. It's unfortunate that at least one of the suspects in Singapore is believed to have used crypto to help launder assets. Crypto has a bad reputation for facilitating money laundering. Privacy coins and mixing services like Tornado Cash are particularly in the sight of regulators and law enforcement. While privacy coins like Monero and Zcash have legitimate use cases, such as protecting the financial privacy of individuals and businesses, their anonymity has also made them attractive for illicit activities, including money laundering. Meanwhile, crypto mixers like the now banned Tornado Cash obscure the link between the sender and the receiver of cryptocurrency transactions by pooling customer funds together. Privacy coins and crypto mixers have been used by a range of illicit actors, including state-affiliated hackers, cybercriminals, and rogue nation-states like North Korea. However, an essential counterpoint is that cryptocurrency transactions are inherently more traceable than ones made with traditional fiat currency. Given that each transaction is recorded on a public ledger, Singaporean authorities, for instance, pinpointed unauthorized withdrawals from Wang Shuming's Binance account during his detention, and cyber detectives traced breaches back to the Lazarus Group, a North Korean hacking entity. Furthermore, leading cryptocurrency exchanges have also instituted rigorous KYC and AML protocols, paralleling those of mainstream banks. Companies like Chainalysis deploy advanced technologies to monitor suspicious on-chain operations, partnering with law enforcement to mitigate unlawful actions. To put things into perspective, illicit activities involving crypto are dwarfed by global money laundering figures. As per Chainalysis, such illicit endeavors account to less than 1% of all crypto transactions. In contrast, the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime estimates money laundering to be between 2 and 5% of global GDP, translating to 800 billion to 2 trillion US dollars annually. Disturbingly, over 90% of these transactions remain unnoticed. So next time someone claims that crypto is linked to crime, you have your rebuttal. So there you have it, a journey into the criminal underworld in East Asia. Tell us, did you find the story as shocking as we did? Do you think it's tarnished Singapore's image? Before you go, if you enjoyed this video and you learned something from it, please like it, share it, and make sure you subscribe to both Coin Bureau and Coin Bureau Clips. Also, head on over to the Coin Bureau Deals page, where you can find the best discount deals, including up to $40,000 in bonuses, and the finest crypto merch that there is. It all helps support the channel and lets us continue to provide you with the best crypto and macro content out there. Thank you for listening. I'm Jessica, and this is Goodbye.